You want the best for your car? You already watch our tutorials.
So the best place for the best deal is to buy from the Mr. Auto app. Easy, fast, and with better prices than on the website.
You will find the bulk shock absorbers used in the video exclusively on the Mr. Auto website and through the link in the description. Turn your engine off, pull up the handbrake, pull on the bonnet release lever and open the bonnet. Use a flathead screwdriver to remove the protective cover from the shock absorber heads. Then, using a ratchet and a 13mm socket, unscrew the 3 screws holding the shock absorber cups by a few threads in order to create some play for the next manipulations. Using a 21mm offset wrench and a 7mm Allen key, unscrew the strut mount front nut by a few threads. You can also use the specific tool used in the video, which will make your task much easier. Loosen the stud bolts on the front wheels. Lift the front of the vehicle. Place the vehicle on the axle stands. You must remove the wheels in order to change the front shock absorbers on your car. This will give you full access to the suspension system. We strongly suggest watching the tutorial, raising your vehicle safely before carrying out this step. Don't forget to slide them under the vehicle. You now have to remove the stabilizer link bar. It connects the sway bar to the shock absorbers so that the wheels are always in contact with the ground. To do this, we recommend watching the video How to Replace the Sway Bar Links Polo 4. Unclip the ABS sensor retaining clamp by prying it with a flathead screwdriver. Using a socket wrench and a 10mm socket, unscrew the bracket holding the brake and the ABS sensor hoses in place. Remove the brake hose retaining clip. Remove the hose, then unclip the ABS sensor from the retaining bracket. Remove the retaining bracket. Disconnect the ABS sensor using a small flathead screwdriver. On this vehicle, the control arms must be disengaged from the hub as the driveshaft butts against the engine bed and prevents the shock absorber from being removed. Start by brushing the ball joint retaining nut from the control arm, then spray it with degreaser. Using an 18mm spanner, unscrew the control arm ball joint retaining nut. If the ball joint turns with the nut, you will need to block the rotation of the ball joint by applying pressure with a jack. You can now pry the ball joint from the control arm using a large screwdriver or crowbar. Brush the screw of the shock absorber base and spray it with degreaser. Then, using a socket wrench, an 18mm socket and an M14 Triple square socket to prevent the screw from rotating, unscrew the nut from the base of the shock absorber. Then, remove the screw. Using a hammer, slide a thin chisel into the opening of the stub axle. This will slightly separate it and help remove the shock absorber. Brush the bottom of the shock absorber and spray it with penetrating oil. This will help with the future manipulations. Lightly tap on the steering knuckle to free the bottom of the shock absorber. Position the jack to hold the hub once it has been released from the stub axle. Finish removing the screws holding the suspension strut support bearing. Hold the shock absorber with one hand and finish unscrewing with the other. Remove the shock absorber.
All parts used in this tutorial are supplied by our trusted partners. These partners also help us create as many video tutorials as possible. Check them out in the description below.
In order to change the shock absorber, you must now separate it from the spring. You can find in the description the tool we used in the video which we think is most adapted to the operation. Careful! Pay attention as you compress the spring. This is not without risk and should be undertaken paying very careful attention. Install the shock absorber on the tool, then tighten the mobile flange against the spring, controlling its position carefully. Check that they're properly held by the locking studs, then slowly compress the spring using the socket wrench and the appropriate socket. Once the shock absorber is free on the spring, you can use a 21mm offset wrench and a 7mm Allen key to unscrew the suspension strut support bearing. In the most extreme cases, you have to use an impact wrench. You can also use the specific tool used in the video, which will make your task much easier. Then remove the suspension strut support bearing assembly. Remove the protective sleeve and remove the shock absorber from the spring. Take the new shock absorber and all the accessories that you will find in the video description on the Mr. Auto site. Before installing the new shock absorbers, it is necessary to prime them by pressing the shock absorber rod vertically so that the gas and the hydraulic fluid are separated. Unscrew the lock nut on the stem. Then install the shock absorber sleeve in the rotating stop, the shock absorber stop in the support bearing. Install the new shock absorber into the spring, then install the assembly into the shock absorber spring. Take the new nut and start tightening by hand. Before tightening it all the way, make sure the base of the spring is positioned so that it rests on the shock absorber flange. And finish by screwing on the lug nut onto the shock absorber stem. Make sure it is well tightened. You can also use the specific tool used in the video, which will make your task much easier. Unscrew the spring compression tool, paying attention to the position of the spring on the lower shock absorber support. You have now finished preparing the new part. Sand and grease the inside of the stop axle to help facilitate the reinsertion of the shock absorber. Go ahead and lightly grease the base of the shock absorber. Insert the shock absorber starting from the top part. Tighten the 3 suspension strut support bearing retaining screws partway. Thread the shock absorber base into the stub axle. The bottom positioning pin of the shock absorber base must be inserted into the opening of the stub axle. You can reinsert a chisel into the opening of the stub axle, making it easier to position so that the tab of the keyed connection lets the stub axle screw pass. You can use the jack to exert pressure and facilitate the insertion of the shock absorber into the stub axle. Screw the foot of the shock absorber back into the shock absorber. Finish off the tightening with a torque wrench. Put the ball joint of the control lamps in place, then screw the nut back on. Finish off the tightening with a torque wrench. Using adjustable pliers, clip the ABS sensor retaining clip back on. Screw the hose mounting brackets back on. Then clip the ABS sensor back in. Clip the brake hose back in. Clip the ABS sensor hose back in. Put the sway bar link back in place. Then screw it back on. Finish off the tightening with the torque wrench. Then you will be able to put the wheels back on your vehicle. During this operation, you will be working on the front axle of your car, so it is advisable to perform a parallelism afterwards. Put your car back on the ground and block the wheels securely. The final tightening of the 3 strut support bearing retaining bolts is done with the vehicle on the ground and with a torque spanner. Finalize the tightening of the shock absorber head with a torque wrench. Put the plastic protection back on. Operation completed.
Hi, it's Theo from UseTool. I hope this video has helped you a lot in your car maintenance. We would be super grateful if you could spread the word so that we can produce even more tutorials. Simply give us a like, a comment, and hit that subscribe button. It really helps us boost the channel and help the whole community. Thanks a lot and have a great one.